We truly appreciate you all making the time to join us for this session. Earlier this year, MMJC hosted two webinars focusing on the subject of rumor. In those sessions, we explored the regulators' expectation and the compliance requirement surrounding the key concepts of rumor verification. But as you're already aware, regulators and legal frameworks set certain parameters for compliance. However, it's the industry's maturity, practical understanding, and wisdom that shapes up the guidelines applied over these compliances. Over time, industries do develop their own standards and practices that can go beyond just legal triggers. They integrate valuable real world insights as well. So now, as we see, 4.5 months later, we have seen the industry set its own benchmarks for responding to and verifying rumor. Today's webinar will dwell into this industry-driven parameters, discussing on how companies are reacting to and managing rumor-related challenges. This will be further explained and deliberated in detail by our exceptional speaker, Mr. Saurabh Agarwal, one of the partners at MMGC. I'm confident that his insights will provide you with a lot of valuable knowledge and practical takeaways. Throughout this webinar, please feel free to share any questions you may have in the chat box or raise your hand. We will address them during the Q&A session at the end. Without further ado, let's get started. I will now hand it over to our amazing speaker, Mr. Saurabh sir, to kick off today's discussion. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Yashika. Is my screen visible? Yep. So, good afternoon, everyone. We are here again for the next session on rumor verification. This time we have, in fact, Yashika and our R&D team has done a lot of work. We have analyzed about more than 100 rumor verifications which came in by corporates, and we tried to derive some learning, tried to derive some patterns out of it, and make some meaning out of it. Uh, this is $1 million question. Should I verify this? Should I comment on this, or should I pass it? Because there is no NPM, there is no, it's not a specific information. It may be not a like 30 event, or at the best time not falling under the top 250 or top 100 company. So should I be verifying at the first place, or should I be passing on this? All right. So we will try to answer this question today through again the patterns which have come from the industry only. Uh, One disclaimer before we begin. This is again our knowledge initiative, and this has got nothing to do with. There is no specific comment which we are making to any company. Neither it is an investment advice. It is also it is a view which we are expressing, or the dots which we are trying to connect based on publicly available information. That can be media news, that can be information which companies have uploaded on stock exchange, and so on and so forth. So we are just trying to derive some meaning and learnings out of it. This is some analysis which Yashika has done tremendously, and we'll try to go line by line here. Let's see this material price movement. Often companies ask us question that मेरा MPM नहीं हुआ है. There is no material price movement, but there is this news. Should I verify? We have not advised to these companies, but this is the statistics. If we see 50-50 almost, 50% there was material price movement, 50% there was no material price movement. All right, we go ahead. We see top 100 and top 250. So from left to right, this is rank 1 and this is rank 3, 6,000. Out of the 123 disclosures which we have seen, 33% belongs to top 100, 17% belongs to 101 to 250, which is again 50% in top 250, and 50% is remaining top 250. So companies, it is also deriving out of it that companies are not waiting for this rule to become applicable to them compulsory. They are suo motu giving this disclosures, verifications, either suo motu or based upon the request received from stock exchange, which is this, and very interesting number again. We seldom believe that if I don't do, then stock exchange will ask a question. But if we see again the statistics, 30% almost is coming from stock exchange, but 70% is without involvement of stocks. So it's as a governance thumbs up, as a practice thumbs up, but again an indicator. Reg 30 events as predictable. Around 80% is Reg 30 items, but also 20% are non-Reg 30 items. So very interesting statistics. This line by line is still fine, but when we compare MPM with upon verification upon exchange letter, if we see that 50% is there is no material price movement, and if we see this line item, there is no compulsion coming from stock exchange either, predominantly. Still companies are disclosing because majority 70% is wherein stock exchange is not written. We have disclosed, and we are seeing that 50% almost is wherein there is no material price movement. So what can be the cause? What is why people are disclosing? What are those scenarios? We will try to see. We are covering roughly around 25%, well, roughly around 30-35 cases in this particular presentation in the upcoming slide. And see, we see what is the trend. One more question which often gets asked to us is what is the content of what should be the content of my verification or the clarification or deny whatever I am giving, what should be the content, how should I present it? And ISF has done a very beautiful job and they have come out with very good templates. So question asked is should I stick to that or can I improvise? We'll try to see some good disclosures as well. In next 1 hour or so, we will be looking upon these four aspects. First is very quickly, 3 to 5 minutes max, we will spend on basics as to what is rumor, what is authentic news, what is mainstream, what is the role of mainstream media, material price movement specific, and so on and so forth. Then we will deep dive. We will deep dive we will try to basket these verifications through various lenses, whether those are Reg 30 items, whether there was material price movement or not, whether the information was specific impending, how did people responded, what is the scenario in case of material update. So if there is already a news out and there is further developments which are happening which goes out in the media, all right, how is company responding? Am I obligated to verify because it is again in a way it is authentic because I have already disclosed in past. So that is something which we will be seeing. Third is what are the incidental changes in other policies and processes which we have to see. We all know maturity policy. We would have already done it as far as top 100, top 250 is already in process. UPSI identification framework which we will have. Do we need to revisit that? Is there a need? Is there a need to revisit leak of UPSI process? Am I obligated to get into this domain? Should I co-link this with UPSI or not? That also we will try to understand through some industry practices. And fourth is our submissions, which we will make to industry and all professionals out there. Is that how do we approach this? What should be a mindset? Where we should not compromise or where we should not look into these nitty-gritties of whether it is specific, impending, whether there is material price movement or not, and where we should apply these principles and take a back seat. Even if we take a back seat, then what care we should take, or whenever this news comes, what care should we take? We try to see all of this. So without further ado, let's deep dive. Let's quickly run through the basics. Rumor, we all know very commonly. Rumor is something which is something which is spoken about, which is not authentic. All right. However, I often place it in this fashion in the context of the regulation. Something which is not disclosed to public at large on stock exchange portal is predominantly rumor. Now, we would have post-earning call. Those transcripts are also available on public through stock exchange portal. We make a lot of press release. Those are also available in public forum through stock exchange portal. Our customary disclosures also we make. But usually questions will come when things are not reported on stock exchange portal, and um, therefore stock exchange and SEBI would believe that they are not generally available, and therefore they might raise questions. So from that context, rumor definition has to be looked upon. Very obvious, it is applicable from 1st June 2024. It is already effective for top 100 companies. For top 250, it is applicable from 1st December. Already many companies are in process of setting up their systems. Again, basic. Um, there are three things which we all need to bear in mind. One is source of information, which is mainstream media and material business operations. Again, ISF has done wonderful job. They have enlisted the list of media sources which we need to monitor. There are agencies which are available who gather this information already. Most of the large companies, they already have the system whose IR corp communication team gather this information. So we need to pull that information out. uh, if there is any such kind of rumor in these sources, then we have to put this lens of whether it is impending in nature, whether it is specific in nature, and whether there is a material price movement or not. We'll discuss these subjects again from an industry background, practice perspective in greater detail. We, we already had one session before this wherein we explained this concept in greater detail. So I'm not going on the academic side of it, but just covering the basics. So if there is a media news in this sources, and that news is impending and specific, and that has created a material price movement, then we have to go to the third stage of confirmation, verifier, and denial. If either of it is missing, then we need not go to the third stage at all. That's covering the basics. Now let's uh, let's gear up and let's try to understand that how Indian Inc. has responded to these media rumors through Reg 30 and UPSI. $1 million question which often comes to our desk is, should I confine this to Reg 30 items? Now, Reg 30 Schedule 3, we have Para A, Para B. Reg 30 sub-regulation 9, I believe, also talks about information which is material pertaining to subsidiary. Sub-regulation 12 talks about residual clause, anything and everything which is not covered above, but which is material should also be disclosed. Now, with that lens, with that canvas, we will see that how industry is coming up. We have masked the name of the companies for obvious reasons. There was a company there was a news in the market that they were going to acquire another business which was in the food segment. All right, and again, this is a Reg 30 item. So there was a material price movement, and company had to come out with a clarification. Another company whose dividend details were out in the public before the information was made officially disclosed by the company. Company had ought to verify because there was a material price movement. In fact, stock exchange also wrote a letter in this context for to them. Litigation. There was a litigation. There was a pronouncement which was made, but the company was waiting for the order copy to come. In the meanwhile, the media picked up the news, and this news was out in the public, and there was a material price movement, and the company had no choice but to clarify. Another entity wherein the subsidiary company received a mega order. There was a mega order which was agreed upon, but which was at an MOU stage, not at the final stage. There was no material price movement as such, but company went ahead and they gave clarification to public at large that look, this order has been executed by my subsidiary, but whenever the right time comes, we will make a disclosure in finality. Again, why this low, medium, high? Because Usually, we have eye on these corporate actions, and therefore, when it comes to clarification, we usually do not mind giving clarification for this subject. Now we move to the second leg, ordinary course of business. Now, often we use this term ordinary course of business, or we use the terminology of business as usual. Up till now, it has not been tested to a great effect. But owing to this media rumor verification, it is going to come. The things are going to come in question for sure. There are a couple of examples wherein one company was in petroleum sector, and they had executed executed a agreement with another entity who were going to provide them with vehicles. All right, and that news came out in the media, and this was a large order. Around 100 trucks were being purchased. uh, Companies, so owing to this news, there was material price movement. This was not in top 250 either. And there was a letter coming from exchange, and they asked a question to this company that why give us the status of this, that is this news correct? And there consequently company came out with a very beautiful explanation stating out that yes, this is true, but this is in my ordinary course of business. Me having, so this may not be falling under strategic tie-ups for me or technical tie-ups for me. Neither it is marketing tie-up, but yes, I have made this order because this is something. This is how I transport the petrol or the liquid for that matter, and therefore this is in ordinary course of business. Now, what whether regulator has bought it, not bought it, we'll see in upcoming days. But yes, this kind of defense or clarification also works or can work. But what we need to also be clear of is when do we use this ordinary course of business defense. Another company was again on the, so this was a PSU wherein they were going to set up a R&D unit. The total value of this unit was roughly around 700 crores, and this investment was going to be there in the span of 2 to 3 years. This news got reported in the media, mainstream media, again stopped, and there was a material price movement. This company again was not in top 250. Company was asked question that why didn't you disclose earlier? And company again gave a defense or an argument that this was in ordinary course of business, and therefore we didn't make this disclosure. Friends, the message which is coming out very loudly is that uh, this media news can be looked upon or is being looked upon from the lens of Reg 30 as well. And we will have to be absolutely sure that why this is not going to be a Reg 30 item, or what are my defense for not being classified under Reg 30. This information is not mature enough is a very common argument which we have. So, for example, if we take any acquisition assignment or dividend for that matter, we can always take a call that look, this is premature, the definitive agreements are not executed, or the board has not declared, and therefore I have not disclosed. But when business come into play, and this we saw business litigation, we saw that the pronouncement is made, but it's a practice, and it's a very legit practice that we wait for the final order to come and then we make an official disclosure about it, right? So times like this, our practice will be questioned. These are very fine points coming out from it, but this practice could be questioned, and we will have to be prepared for all of these scenarios. So my medium is because ordinary course of business is not a defined terminology, and it is often used without proper backup or a definition, without proper rationale, and therefore we will have, if we are using this defense, then we will have to be very, very careful. The next line item on the right hand side most is the high risk items, wherein these are non-Reg 30 items. Friends, we all know that owing to a recent amendment, all actions taken by or orders passed by regulator, irrespective of value, if there is a penalty or a fine involved, then we need to make a disclosure within 24 hours, all right, irrespective of the value. There was one company wherein there was a, and before I go to that company, and we usually take a very informed call that show cause notice is not an action taken. It is an act. It's a letter received for as to why action is not taken. All right. So we do not make a disclosure. But in one of the case, it so happened that there was not even a show cause notice. There was a pre-show cause notice letter which was received by the company, and somehow this got reported in media, and this created a price impact on the shares of the company. Company had no choice but to make this, to verify and confirm that whether this was received or not. So this was not even a show cause notice, this was a pre-show cause notice. This is a very high risk items, and I'm trying to um, alarm this off to all of us. Next is projected cost. So often we have seen companies giving guidance. People talk about those guidance, people make analytical reports, that's not a problem. But when people start claiming that this is how we foresee that this is how it is going to happen, or when they say that this company is definitely going to grow by this X percentage, which is in deviation with the projection which I have already given or the guidance which I have given. Sometimes we give some indicators that how a particular market is growing, and basis which someone else have a different view and they start alleging it to be true, right? So similar thing happened with another company wherein there was allegation which was made that um, that the project cost is going, the last projected cost which was reported was X, but we foresee that this is going to be Y and we believe it to be true. That's when company had to make a clarification and market started reacting. So company had to make a clarification, verification that look, this is something which is incorrect. Another company, this is an insurance company, PSU again, and this there was a information out in the media that there is going to be a dilution of stake, which means the promoter is going to sell the shares of the company. Now, this is a big news for itself, but if we see strictly, it is not coming under in any Reg 30 item. This information will be due in under PIT for that matter, but not strictly under Reg 30. Um, so, this news was out in the media that promoter is going to dilute the stake. Stock, there was definitely material price movement, and basis which, and this company was not coming under top 250. Stock exchange wrote a letter. Stock exchange already have this mechanism of monitoring the trades or the price movement, and also they have access to media news as well. So they already have the system, basis which they could capture this information, and they wrote to the company, and company had to clarify that whether this was true or not. So again, promoter level decisions have been questioned. We already may be aware about this case scenario wherein promoter level personal information, which may have impact on management and control. Uh, there was a such scenario, and because of which there was a material price movement, and stock exchanges wrote to the company, and company had to clarify. So this may not be strictly Reg 30 item, but ought to be clarified. That's the practice which we are seeing. We move to the next leg wherein we see that if there is a material price movement, so we know for sure that if there is something which is reported in mainstream media, and if there is a material price movement, then we need to clarify. There were some scenarios wherein there was no material price movement. It was not even falling under top 100. Some of them were not even falling under top 100. There was in one or two cases there was nothing on mainstream media, but majority there was mainstream media. Some information was not even specific, but company jumped in and they clarified the position. These are few examples. I will start from left hand side bottom. This this was in a financial institution wherein it was claimed that finance industry, this company belonged to financial industry, and there was a claim that there one of the people, one of the person has used their platform and defrauded many people. So since there was a fraud allegation attached, therefore company came suo moto and company made a clarification or verification. There was no material price movement. There was just a mention about the company that this platform was used. Company, in order to clear their image, they came up, they clarified that this was used in fraudulent activities. Yes, our platform was used, but we are already taking action against that particular person, and our total exposure in terms of top line or bottom line was only related to so and so. So when it came to brand protection, there is no weight of any of these parameters. Another scenario wherein CEO of the company was summoned for a particular investigation, and company came up and they said that industry-wide it so happened that all the CEOs of the industry, they were called and they were asked to clarify they were being summoned, and therefore this has got nothing to do with company in specific, and therefore this does not have to be taken up negatively. So that was a clarification which company came out suo moto. Technology driven, so technology limited. This was a scenario wherein there was an allegation that the company's fund was used for fraudulent purposes and the money was diverted. There was no material price movement despite this news, but company came up suo moto and they said that look, our fund was not used anywhere. In fact, we just have a common bank with the other entity, which their bank, which is being reported in this particular media. Otherwise, we have got nothing to do with this. So when it comes to personal image, the companies they do not wait and they clarify everything suo moto. This is very interesting. This was one of the reputed bank. We will also see this template in the upcoming slide. I love this disclosure, wherein they speak about the fact that there was one media news which got reported wherein they said that the company is going to revisit that lending strategy, and company bank came out so moto. They said that this is a prime service which we provide, and we will not we are not going to revisit this strategy. This is this news which has come out, this is completely false, and if there is anything we will tell you, but there's nothing which we have done of any kind. Some very extreme examples on animal cruelty in the factory. There was a news in the media that in the factory premises there was there is misbehavior with one of the with the dogs, all right, and company came out. There was no material price movement. It was not in top 100 as well. Company came Suamoto and they said nothing of this sort is happening in our company, neither in our factory premises. So be beware of. So this is a false news. So this slide gives us an impression very clearly and very legitly that when it comes to brand protection or reputation building, companies do not take a backseat. They don't wait for all these filters. They come suo moto and they verify. They say what is the true picture, and they do not wait. In fact, this company has gone to another extreme wherein this was a positive news. Up till now, we saw negative news. This was a positive news wherein their name was attached to a particular order. They were said that they won a particular contract, business contract, and which was of XYZ value. Companies came forward and they said, no, we have not won this contract. We are not awarded with this. This news doesn't belong to us at all. We have been misreported. So these were negative news, and it makes sense that we clarify. But this was positive, and this company came up and they clarified. So this was a big thumbs up for this company as well. So we move ahead. We also now see we try to understand impending specific. This is very interesting slide, guys. This company, there was a news out in the media that the company is going to invest to the tune of 1500 to 1800 crores in the next 3 years. Company would have definitely taken an informed call that this is not impending in nature and therefore I will not disclose. And but BSC came, BSC stepped in. There was a material price movement. BSC stepped in and BSC asked clarification that whether this information is true or not. All right. So, so, so things like this also happen. Another side wherein we saw that company was planning to get into health insurance by acquiring another company. All right. And but there was no there was an NPM trigger, but no clarification was asked. All right. So this is impending. Now the impending subject over here is now when am I planning to acquire? Is it immediately in next 3 months, in next 6 months? When is it? All right. So but company didn't clarify and no one asked for clarification either. Probably because it was so MPM got triggered, but how stock exchange missed it, we don't know. So, so these are two extreme cases. Our submission, guys, over here is that we have to be very clear as to when we'll be using this, what is impending, what is specific. We will have to probably clearly articulate, and these companies could get out of these questions because they probably have articulated or probably they were following it in the right manner. So we will have to use it in the clear fashion. Again, $1 million question. What if there is a material update? So many times we see that I am on this particular scenario. We see that we take a upper limit of shareholders, saying stating that we will borrow to the tune of X thousand crores or X hundred crores, and that's an umbrella approval. And during the entire year, we keep on raising the fund. In one of the case, similar scenario was there wherein company had company had taken an umbrella approval and there was a news in the market that company is going to raise X thousand crores from the market by way of debt, and market reacted. Com- Thereafter, thereafter the company had to make a verification or a clarification stating that we have already taken this approval and this news is so this is just an implementation of this particular umbrella approval which we have taken. So things like this can also happen. Litigation I have very shared very briefly under Rec 30 slide wherein I said that the pronouncement which are made. So in para B point number 8, whenever there is any litigation or dispute, we would make a disclosure. We would make a disclosure if it is material in nature. Uh, but we often wait. So whenever there are judicial the judicial body takes its own course, the process takes its own course, and thereafter we observe that there is one fine day, there is a pronouncement made. Though we hear the pronouncement which is spoken by the jury member, but we wait for the order copy to come for the fine prints. In this process, from the pronouncement to the order, in one of the case, the media picked up the news. And this news was out in this news created material price movement. Company had to jump in, they had to clarify that look, this has happened, yes, this has happened, but we are waiting for the final orders. So this is another stuff. Another example of already disclosed events. There was one bubble which got burst in history, wherein there was a finance company which went into doldrums, and there was directors also which were appointed by NCLT, and it was very clear that they were given a mandate that they will have to dilute the stake or they will have to sell off some assets. Um, Given this background, there was a news which came out in the public that for ABC Limited, they are going to dilute the stake. This particular entity is going to dilute the stake. Um, Basis this information, market reacted. So there was already this news which was NCLT directed and which was director convened meetings, which were the director appointed by NCLT who had decided this already, and this was out in the media. But the actual implementation, when it happened, market starts reacting. We can also look at it from a UPSI angle, but for the time being, I'm just confining myself to giving examples as to how and when people are responding and how they are responding for that matter. AGM extension, there was AGM extension which was taken by a listed company. This is a very recent case, AGM extension which was taken by a listed company. And because they said that there is already a restructuring which is being proposed and we are waiting for the orders and therefore we are taking this extension. But mm, there was another news, corollary news revolving around it, saying that certain shareholders are unhappy because because of this extension, they would have preferred that this AGM was being convened. Given this media news, market started reacting and there was middle price movement. Company had to come out with the clarification. Uh, the reason why I'm sharing this from this different lenses is to highlight as to how people are disclosing and what are the senior scenarios wherein they are disclosing. And these disclosures are not confined only to the listed entities. It is we have already seen in previous cases again at the cost of some repetition from a specific lens, we will see that it is many a times not confined only to the listed company, it is also to my subsidiary and also about my promoter. All right. I already gave an example about a big listed corporate getting subsidiary of a big listed corporate getting into a business contract which was high value, but that not news got reported in the media. Since that information was premature and therefore probably they didn't disclose. But when this news got reported in media that this order has there is a collaboration and these two entities are going to do this project jointly, company had no choice. There was no material price movement, but company thought it wise that they come out with the clarification as to why whether this information is true or not. All right, and they came up and they gave this clarification. So this information was not pertaining to the listed entity but pertaining to the subsidiary. I have already given an example of promoter level stake dilution. If that gets reported in the media, there was another news in the media about that promoter is planning for succession. All right, and then company started receiving questions that who is the successor, how it is, and there was a material price movement. Company had no choice but to give this clarification. All right, and therefore, whenever we do this or whenever such occasions come, uh, we will have to very clearly engage with the promoter. If not, we have already not engaged, then we will have to engage with the promoter, have a clear communication that this is something which is expected out of you, and there is already an amendment in Regulation 30, which states that promoter, director, KMP, SMP will give all the assistance which is required to give a clarification for Reg 30 item. In fact, the recent consultation paper also talks about for all the regulations of LODI, wherever required, promoter, director, KMP, SMP will chip in for compliances. So this no longer becomes our fiduciary responsibility, it's also become our legal responsibility as compliance officers that we make them aware that this is their duty and this is something which they will have to share when the right time comes. How to evaluate material is again a question. If market is reacting, it is a premature news. Should we wait for maturity is again we will have to see. Do I need to check group companies? Especially this is scenario where you have multiple listed companies in your promoter group kitty, wherein ABC has been spoken about XYZ listed entity, which happens to be a sister concern. So, do I still have to check about that news? Because it may so happen that there is something which is spoken about the promoter for that particular entity. and not maybe necessary for you, but may incidentally may be applicable to you or may impact you. Subsidiary we have already discussed. So this is something which we will have to be very, very careful of. And this is how people have already started responding to such news, which is subsidiary level and also at promoter level. Material business operations. This is especially when we have operations outside India. There are already five jurisdictions: USA, Singapore, Mauritius, Luxembourg, and UK, wherein already we have to monitor the news which is coming in these particular states. But if there is any other region wherein we have operations, say we have operations in China or Germany or any state for that matter, then we will have to see whether they will be classified as MBO, and we will have to amend our policy to that effect. Um, we have seen very interesting uh, disclosures coming up in this particular basket. Um, I will start with this one. Our promoters, our managing directors, they often go to for business development, for relationship, for networking. They go to various places. There was similar such scenario happening in one of the pharma company wherein MD went to meet prime minister of a particular state, and this news got reported in the media, and shareholders responded or reacted to that particular news. Company had no choice but to come out with a clarification, stating the true picture that this is a normal BD activity which we do and there is nothing concrete as of now. If whenever there is anything concrete, we will be disclosing. But friends, what I'm trying to highlight is there were days wherein we used to say that we do not respond to media speculations, right, or media reports. As a policy, we do not. But now we are seeing another extreme, wherein promoter related information, subsidiary related information, me speaking with anyone. In fact, we will see in the upcoming slides also something which is picked up from our analyst call, post earnings call. That also creates a lot of noise, and we had to clarify. So that's another extreme. Another news. So this was still generic, but this is very, very specific news wherein it was said that ABC company had have a unit in XYZ territory, and the country of that XYZ, that country of XYZ country is going to spend so much of amount to clean up their steel plant, which meant naturally that this will come to this particular company. So that news, when reported to media, uh, people or shareholders started reacting, and company had no choice but to respond. In fact, in this particular case, there was no material price movement. Company Suomoto came up and they gave this particular clarification. Um, this is another very interesting story. Um, you would have multiple contracts. Um, this particular company had two business divisions, if my understanding is correct, and one of the business division was outside India. It was in US, and there was a renewal of contract which was expected, but that renewal didn't come, was not honored. It went to another competitor, and that news got reported in that particular territory. And when it got reported in that particular territory, media reacted. Sorry, shareholders reacted, and owing to which company had no choice but to come out with a clarification. Company came out with a very beautiful clarification stating that we already have Plan B, Plan C, Plan D in works, and therefore this is not going to create any big ruckus for us. Now, how much that is true is something which will be often see. We will pick up this topic. This is again a frequently asked question. I am not going into industry practice for now, but this is something which is very, very relevant. One thing which comes out very, very loudly is that we have to see that if there is a material price movement in either of the stock exchange, number one. So if there is a material price movement in NSE, but there is no material price movement in BSE, Still, we will have to see that if there is any rumor or not, and we will have to clarify if there is any rumor. That's number one. Number two, we would also see this very interestingly that the open versus close is on 1.16%. All right, and index has moved by 2.69, and script has moved point by 1.16. But when we see on high versus closing, all right, which means closing is 545 and day high is 561. So despite the market reacting by open versus close index, there is a 2.69% indexation benefit. So whenever we look into the opening price of the day, we can give an indexation benefit of the index. So if the index has moved by 2.69%, we could, if this would have been if this would have been 4.5%, it would have still been fine. If it would have been 4.75, well, 3% plus 2.5 is still fine. 2.69 is something which will trigger the material price movement as far as the open versus close. So technically till 5.69%, 5.68 percentage, there was no requirement of making a seeing into the market rumor. But if we see high versus closing, now for opening versus closing, I see 5.16. But if I see high versus closing, day high versus closing, I am seeing only 3.03%. So there is no indexation benefit which is coming up. And this again becomes a very, very critical point for evaluation or for calculation. So we just thought of highlighting this to you. Based on our analysis, we observed that we did a study of around top 100 for top 100 companies, and our analysis said that there are 280 plus days of trading available in any calendar days, and out of that 280 days, there are more than 40 days on an average wherein there is a material price movement, and this is only high opening versus closing. ड्यूरिंग द डे का हाई वर्सेस क्लोजिंग हमने इसमें कैलकुलेट नहीं किया, which means these are the number of occasions. Even if we take this simple statistic, in a year at least 40 such occasions would arise wherein I will have to see that there is any media rumor or not, and I will have to keep on verifying if we go through the material price movement context. Simple examples can be elections, budgets. This time when there was election results and there was budget which was announced, there was huge volatility in the price. All right. Though we also moved with that price. Index also moved along with the price, but yes, there was a material price movement, and we had to see whether there was any rumor or not. If there are two rumors, which one to clarify? We will have to clarify both. Now, this is something which I wanted to share, that there was a post-earning call. So there was a particular news which came out in the market which stated that company is trying to do ABC business. All right, is looking upon ABC business, and that news created a lot of volatility in the price. There was a material price movement. Stock exchange asked question to that company, and company said that in fact they verified in their submission to stock exchange that look please look into the transcript of this particular post earning call, in which we have clearly said that we are in the process of evaluating or reviewing whether we should do this business or not, and therefore this decision is yet not made. Whenever it is made, we will be telling you. All right. So such scenarios also happen. In fact, many a times we see that there is a surge in price, but there is no rumor in the market as well. So that is another situation. So this is due to external reason. This is for no reason. Or I would say reason for beyond our understanding also. So such things also do happen. And the last part on this second segment is the templates part. ISF, as I have already shared my view that they have given a very beautiful draft based on the stages. We can choose the language. We can say that we keep on evaluating various opportunities, and whenever there is a right time, we will disclose. We can also talk about the that there is a special project which is being worked upon, or there is a committee which has been constituted, and we keep on evaluating to do things, and we will do that. And when it is fairly at an advanced stage, which is post MOU, then we can give specifics which is already available in public domain. So no harm done from that context, and we give them a clarity that look, this is something which we are doing, and there is nothing binding at all. Uh, some interesting uh, disclosures which we found out worth sharing. This was basically stating that this article have not been sought, neither provided by the exchange, and in view of the same, we are unaware on the basis of which this article has written. Hence, we are unable to comment. This was very interesting because this was a very positive news which was written about the company. Company very tactfully, they didn't deny this, but didn't even own this particular article. So they just said their views that we cannot comment on this particular media report. All right. So I loved this balanced way of disclosing or verifying. This is another HDFC Bank. If you recollect, I spoke about focused business and predominant market. That this is my main service, and I'm not in any mindset of reviewing that particular strategy as well. So this came out very beautifully. And they say that, and this was voluntary. There was not even any material price movement. Since this was their prime product, they came out voluntarily and they clarified that look, this is something which we are not working upon. We usually also do not give any these type of frivolous and inappropriate reports, but we are responding to keep our portfolio intact and and highlighting, emphasizing that this is our growth segment, and we will continue to do that. This was on Indigo. I really loved this particular verification. They said that we so there was a news article which said that Indigo is in talks for 100 smaller planes as part of their plan to widen regional network. We all know that Indigo has become a growth story or a success story for that matter. And amidst that, there was a news that 100 smaller planes again they are trying to hire up. All right. So this came again. So this they used in the context of BAU, business as usual, and very balanced. We keep all our options open at all times in order to serve our customers and drive growth for our organization. We would like to clarify that there are no material events which require disclosure as of now, and whenever it is come, we will be giving that disclosure for sure. So I loved this particular disclosure. So these are few templates. Happy to share some compilations if requested. We move ahead and we go into the impact, consequential impact on policies and processes. We all know that there is a maturity policy. There has to be a change in maturity policy because we will have to define what is material business operations. And again, some companies are going with percentage of turnover, some of them are going percentage of order book, some of them are going as per the strategic nature of that particular territory. So that's maturity policy for that matter. Often question comes, look, we do not have any operations outside India. Do we need to pen down anything in our policy? Answer is it would be better if you articulate your criteria for long run in the policy. I will not say it is a compulsion, but my suggestion would be to have an criteria set out in the policy in the long run to maintain consistency. Code of fair disclosure. If the rumor is with relating to UPSI, because it says that UPSIBC Schedule A, Code of Fair Disclosure, it says that we will have to maintain equality of information. We will have to avoid information asymmetry. And if there is any selective information if there is any information which gets disclosed selectively, then we have to ensure consistency and make it generally available for all. So from a rumor context, we will have to also uh, uh, cast responsibility on CIRL, that if there is anything which gets disseminated selectively, then what they will do in such scenario. Um, so that's something. And leak of UPSI, and let me go to this part now. Rumor vis-a-vis UPSI. Um, Friends, the if we see the original thought of rumor verification was based on materiality, which was based on 30 sub-regulation 4 or para A for that matter. But owing to the feedbacks which went to the regulator, very rightly they had now linked it to the material price movement or the price movement of the share price of the company. Now, what this has changed the dynamics to a great extent, and this is a much often talked about subject. I will only give few situations or scenarios to you guys, and I'm sure you guys are the best judge to conclude whether it was UPSI or it is UPSI or not. There was a company wherein there was a rumor that there is going to be a special dividend of 6,000 crores. Company came out with a clarification stating that, giving a very generic response stating that there is nothing up for maturity under Regulation 30, and therefore, whenever the right time comes, we will disclose. In 2 days' time, company gave a prior intimation. Very next day, there was another media news which said that now the number is 8,000 crores. And the meeting was held 2 days thereafter. After prior intimation, 2 clear working days, the meeting was scheduled, and actually the announcement was of 8,000 something crores. All right. So we all have a practice of giving a table. Many of us have a practice of giving a table of possibilities. In that scenario A, this would be the dividend. Scenario B, this would be the dividend. Scenario C, this would be the dividend and its impact. All right. But and this was a special interim dividend which was being declared. Quantum, even if we put the quantum aside, the fact that there was a dividend which was being considered, it went out into the media and shareholders also reacted. Other news wherein there was resignation of CFO which went out to public at large, and again market reacted. Another scenario of acquisition. These two scenarios are of raising of funds and acquisition. These projects many a times get reported in the media. Friends, I often say that there was this, whether this rumor verification is nothing but a constructive law and not a destructive law. This kind of information was already going out in the media and was being reported well in advance before companies were officially announcing this. And this is me connecting the dots. And therefore, SEBI or the regulator had two choices. One is they enforce leak of UPSI provisions, and they question that whether we investigated leak or not. That was one option. Second option is to immediately address that particular situation and uh, and bestow compulsion on companies to clarify immediately that whether this information is true or not. For quite some time, stock exchanges have been doing this job, but now with this amendment, they have made it very obvious that this is now responsibility of the companies as well. When such kind of information goes out in the media and when the market also reacts, it becomes very difficult for companies to defend or stroke argue that this was not a UPSI at the first place. That's pretty obvious, but the million-dollar question remains is thereafter. If rumored event or information is not UPSI as per company policy or framework, then whether still leak of UPSI process needs to be followed. It's very clear that when such news goes out in the media, there is definitely a leakage, and we do not have a choice but to investigate leak. But if my policy is saying that this is not UPSI, or my board has determined this is not UPSI, or KMPs have determined this is not material, or UPSI for that matter, but market reacts. Still, do I need to still go ahead and investigate leak just because there is a material price movement? Answer would be no. But if I see a trend that if this kind of news is going out in the when this kind of news is going out in the media and market reacts to that, and which is a material price movement, do I need to revisit my framework of UPSI parameters when I classify it as UPSI and when I do not? Often questions used to come to our desk is whether KMP changing position is UPSI or not. And now the questions come that is SMP changes UPSI or not. Only time will tell us whether these informations are so relevant or not. Um, so this is another aspect which we will have to see. Mm, as far as regulator is concerned, regulators, as I shared few minutes back, that regulator or stock exchanges, they have been always been tracking the price movement, even volume for that matter, and many of you would have received letter from the stock exchange stating that there is a material price movement, there is a spike in price. Uh, what is there anything which you would like to disclose? There is a spike in volume. Would you like to disclose anything? And we used to give a generic answer that no, there is nothing material, and therefore we will not this. Then we started seeing that they also started become media news, and they started asking very specific questions that "Look, this is the media news which is there. Please confirm on this particular news." There was third scenario wherein whenever we make a Reg 30 disclosure or a press release, and if market reacts to that, we receive a letter from stock exchange stating that look, give me the life cycle of this particular event or information. Tell me who all had access to this information. Give us email documents, give us extract of SDD. Did you investigate? Was there any leak and did you investigate leak? They go to such extents. With this rumor verification, we are seeing another phase getting created, wherein they are saying that then you or company are aware that there is something which is not announced and which is creating this material price movement. If so, you are advised to clarify under Act 30. If they find something specific news, they are writing that whether such negotiations were taking place and give a sequence of events. They are also asking questions now that whether this article is creating any material impact or not. So things are getting very, very difficult. My worry is that if the next question is that whether this was leak, whether you have investigated leak, would we have a right answer? We will have to demonstrate. So that is something which would come to our desk. So we will have to be there. Now comes the last part of the session. Up till now, we have seen various scenarios which gets reported in media and how companies are responding to those scenarios. We also saw that how com how much weightage companies are giving to Reg 30, material price movement, and blah blah. Now we will try to understand, try to summarize all of this and see that what kind of questions are there. I guess, okay, so we have Chetan Nathani ji who has raised hand. Yashika, can you help him to unmute?
Yes, sir.
Meanwhile, we also have Dimple Madam asking, did Stock Exchange accepted this justification from HDFC? Not clarifying. HDFC, in fact, HDFC Bank, they clarified voluntarily, madam. There was not even material price movement. They came out suo moto stating that this is our important segment and this is we do not see any change in that particular, and this is something which we had reaffirmed in the post earning call as well. So, and they also very categorically wrote in that particular letter, and Yashika highlighted me this morning. She that this is something which we do not do often. This is something which is very unique because this is main business which is being talked about, and therefore I am stepping in and clarifying. So this would be my submission, Dimple ma'am.
Uh, I have unmuted Chetan sir. Chetan sir, you may ask a question.
Yeah. So, are there any compulsion under the reporting requirements to amend the code of conduct and the other policies that you are suggesting?
So as far as material business operations is concerned, there is a compulsion that we have defined the criteria in the materiality policy, um, and we will. And many companies are they are also highlighting that which are these territories which will fall under this material business operations, and they start tracking from that context. As far as code of fair disclosure is concerned, if we see that Schedule A, you may already know this, but Schedule A is only the principles, and Regulation 8 expects that we craft out the policies and procedures for adhering to those principles. And therefore, there is a need to revisit those processes. Is our submission, sir? Does that help, Chetan, sir?
Yes, yes. Thank you. Thanks.
Yeah.
So there's one more question in the chat box from Satyapat sir. I'll read it for you. Are there any professional agencies in the market who can help in calculation of MPM if the company informs them that there is a rumor about the company, and then this agency basis the defined criteria can calculate the MPM?
There are already some vendors who are doing this. There are two, three which I know of. We can also, they are obviously charging something, and that software is pretty advanced. That software also gives alert, and therefore that is very helpful. But if there is any budget constraint or something which you find that is not worth the penny, what we have tried to do is we have tried to create an Excel sheet which is linked to market indices which is available in public domain. So automatically those numbers get updated and there is a difference which is calculated. The only drawback is manually we have to keep on seeing. We don't need to feed in data, but we will have to set a frequency in which we keep on seeing that Excel sheet and see whether there is any material price movement or not. But yes, to answer your question directly, there are softwares which are doing this. Yashika, if you can type in the chat box to him in type answer, you can type the answer to.
Sure, sure, sir. So one more question. There is a SEBI meeting minutes which came up few days back, which states
Hmm.
that litigation-related matters can be clarified within 72 hours, whereas this amendment states that same needs to be clarified within 24 hours. So can you please highlight on this?
Very nice question.
Hmm.
So there are two different asks, uh, Ishanji. One is that so this was a need of the industry also that whenever there is any litigation which is filed against me, I need to assess, and that assessment cannot be done in 24 hours time. I may not be able to justify that assessment in that 24 hours time, and therefore I need time to assess it, and therefore SEBI responded by extending the timeline from 24 hours to 72 hours. Before I go further, one very fine point. It is up to 24 hours. So it has to be promptly, but not later than 24 hours or 72 hours. So the expectation is always that it has to be done ASAP. This is one leg of the story. Second leg of the story is that while we are doing this assessment, somehow this information goes out in the market, all right, and market starts reacting to that particular news, and therefore there is a chaos. So to address that chaos, they are saying that you have to jump in immediately and not later than 24 hours. So there are two different objectives. So the objective is common that there should be no information asymmetry. All right, we should immediately respond. We should immediately give that information to public at large. But in that process, if there is any leakage, then we will have to take care of that leakage as well. Would be my submission, Ishanji. So I hope that clarifies. I move to the next part, and the last part is the summary and the recommendations post analyzing all these 123 verifications. What is our viewpoint is something which we would like to submit. Uh, as thanks to Ishanji, this subject came up. The idea is to take care of information asymmetry. It is a very close to heart subject of the regulator because that's what they are for, investor protection. And wherever there is any kind of mischief which is going to impact the demand and supply, they would step in, and therefore we are seeing hordes of initiatives coming from the regulator as well. Now, with this thought process and the summary analysis which we have seen, we could put it into three baskets or three steps. Whenever there is any confusion, the principle which we will have to bear in mind is the sanctity of the market. सो मटेरियल प्राइस मूवमेंट हो गया है, मैं टॉप 100 टॉप 50 में हूँ नहीं हूँ, स्पेसिफिक इंफॉर्मेशन है नहीं है, इवन इफ इट इज स्पेसिफिक नॉन स्पेसिफिक जनरल मटेरियल प्राइस मूवमेंट नो प्राइस मूवमेंट, if the market is getting compromised, demand and supply is getting compromised, then this rule will come into play in some fashion or the other. Now, keeping this rule in mind, we can probably bifurcate our actions basis these three criteria. One is when it comes to goodwill or brand protection, I would not wait for anything. This is a natural tendency also which we have seen that if it is going to say that look there is something, uh, if it is saying that it is it is something which is um, unmoral, which is being conducted within my premises, or if it is saying that this particular company is involved in ABC fraud, or this particular is a company or KMP, SMP is involved in this kind of mischief. So, in order to protect that brand or goodwill, I will not wait for NPM. I will not wait that whether this is specific or general information. I will jump in and I will disclose, clarify. But when it comes to business operation, we saw Indigo also giving similar examples. We saw petroleum company also giving the similar example. When it comes to business secrecy, wherein I don't want to um, compromise my competitive advantage, all right, then that is where I would like to stick to the law, which is material price movement, specific, impending, and so on and so forth. Similarly, when it comes to transaction also, I would like to stick to the law, and I may use the templates which have been given by ISF, and basis which I can give a very coded response or a verification for that matter. However, when we are taking this call, what we should also be very clear about is the um, circumstantial compliance or circumferential compliances. So, for example, if there is any news which was reported in the media, was it overdue? Whether I am late in making that disclosure or is it premature? Reg 30. Was it UPSI? Now there is an MPM which is happening. Is it UPSI as per my internal framework or no? If it is yes, then whether I have made entry in SDD or not, whether someone I had closed trading window or not, has someone traded in within the organization or my consultants have traded during this point in time, all right. If it is UPSI, did I investigate the leak, all right. Many a times it so happens that start point of UPSI was also not very clear because, and this we have seen many scenarios wherein कंपनी रिप्रेजेंटेटिव्स और पर्सनल सेज दैट ये इन्फॉर्मेशन तो मुझे मीडिया से पता चली, अरे मैं ये फलाना मीटिंग में बैठा था तो वो रिपोर्टिंग में ये पता चला, अच्छा ये ऐसे हो रहा है, विद दिस इंफॉर्मेशन आई केम टू नो ओनली एट द बोर्ड मीटिंग. So and in such scenarios it becomes very difficult to comply with UPSI compliances or HDD maintenance compliances to the T. And therefore, if there is such kind, whatever call we are taking, even if we verify, it is only one aspect which we have done. It is only one sub-regulation which we have complied with. It is only one chaos which we have addressed. But all other stuff also which is also needs to be looked upon, because tomorrow, let's take an example. If I give a very general coded response to stock exchange that look, I keep on evaluating various transactions, and therefore whenever right time comes, I will do it. God forbid if someone within your organization trades at that point in time. It would be a UPS, assuming and if someone trades during that point in time, we have said that it is not up for maturity, then we will fall flat and probably will have to take action against that particular gentleman. So similarly, अगर SDD entry नहीं हुआ है, we see these letters coming from stock exchange. This directly asks extract of SDD. They directly ask the life cycle of event or information. So this is a very, very critical aspect which we have to be, which this is something which we will have to take care of. So whenever there is anything reported in the media, so apart from just responding to that particular verification, we will also have to look it from this lens. So it's going to be a big task. How to comply? So Saurabh Agarwal has said so many things. He has given so much statistics. MMGC is saying so many things, but how do I comply with it? Naturally, we will have to put systems in place. We will have to document this entire process. We will have to have similar templates being drafted because we have only 12-hour or 24-hour time to respond. All right. So we will have to have a monitoring mechanism. We will have to set out daily actionables. Which team will do what? Now, my IR or communication team would be receiving dump of information. Now, filtering out of that dump which of these are non-authentic, which are authentic, the ones which are non-authentic, which are specific, impending, and all those things, and then correlating it with material price movement. All of these things take a lot of task, a lot of time, a lot of mana. So we will have to have systems in place. This is usually what we suggest, that there has to be someone who continuously tracks the media news, and once there is a media news, then we see that if there is any material price movement, specific general, and so on and so forth. If both the stages are yes, then we go to stage three, wherein we start engaging with all of them. Our submission, guys, is that we should spend more time in stage three rather than in stage one, two, or even stage four, five. Stage three is the most important aspect which we have to do. So stakeholder engagement, MD, CFO, specific departments, many times we have to ask someone would be there at factory level. And this is very common. Factory, God forbid, there is something which is happening at factory, be it a strike, be it fire, and this get reported in media. And market starts reacting. It's a very common thing. We have not covered, but that's again a very common thing, right? So we need some information. There is a search and seizure operation which is happening of GST department of a particular state by a particular state in particular territory. And market starts reacting. Reported in medium starts reacting. So at that point in time, we will have to do a lot of stakeholder engagement. Apart from this third point. So ये तो करना ही है. ये तो secretary team का internal काम है. So this is homework. But more importantly, this outlook, MD, ED, CFO, and specific department, this is something which we will have to spend a lot of time and very taxing. So this has to be smooth, and then we should be on stage three. And stage four is the crafting part, which becomes very routine. Yes, if it is pertaining to promoter, director, KMP, SMP, then we need information from them as well, and we have to give time to them as well. We cannot say that came to know only 6 hours or 5 hours later, and you have only now left with 18 hours. So the whole discussion will go in a different direction. So we will have to be very careful with this process. So this was our analysis, hypothesis, or submissions to you guys. Hope it was useful for all of you. Now the question round. If we have any questions, we can take it up.
So there are three questions. I think all are addressed.
Hmm.
Uh, Apart from this, I understand everyone has understood the subject very well.
Mhm.
So
I am
thank
also
you.
understanding.
So, sir, I